I think you painted in pretty broad strokes, and I don't want to force more out of you than you're willing to share.
Mm,
But I think like it would be probably. Let me put it this way. I'll put my remembering and experience of it. Are you okay if I kind of talk through individual events that I remember and kind of you
yeah,
talk about in your timeline what was happening for you at that
sure.
time?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to the beginning because you found out about the scandals around Min Chung and the accusations that were coming out way before I did, I think. When did you hear about it and like sort of what was that timeline like?
Oh man, this is getting pretty hard because we're talking about the exact timeline of this event. I would
Yeah.
say it was pretty early in the fall, I
Yeah.
think.
Because I say that because I learned about it all when they announced it
Right.
at the church
Yeah.
in like, what was that, like February of 2020
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that? So you had heard about it like half a year before everything had
Right.
transpired,
So
it sounds
it
like.
was fall. It was definitely after summer, and I
Yeah.
was really excited for this another ministry year. And I think pretty early on, I think it's pretty like when it happened, like pretty early on into the ministry year, which was fall.
Yeah.
Um, I remember like, oh, is it over? Like, is it over before it even started? Like this ministry year? I remember
Hmm.
feeling that. So it was pretty early. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember for me, like, I knew nothing. I had just seen people start to leave, and I was like, why are people leaving? I
Yeah, yeah.
remember my small group leaders from one year left before everything came out. And I was just like, what the heck happened? Why did they leave? And I was so oblivious, right? Like at the end of the
Right.
day, I think this isn't me being salty, but genuinely, like I just don't think I was as in the know as you and some of the other guys that we talked to were. So
Mm,
I was just like, oh, I guess they don't want to do this anymore. That's fine. We'll
right.
keep. And I think that is sort of the ethos of like, oh, like I guess they're not wanting to be a part of this life anymore. Well, we'll keep rolling ahead. Like
Right.
the mission goes on, we keep marching, so on and so forth. So it
Yeah.
wasn't until February that I actually heard everything and I actually understood that, oh, stuff had happened. And I don't know if I got the sequence of events right, but correct me if I'm wrong here. I think Chipsanim passed away right before. Um, and and this again, like you said, everyone's recollection is different. But to me, for those who don't know, we had a prayer warrior, um, who had basically served at the church since its first day. And she was crazy in a good way in the sense of like her prayer life was insane. She would fast and pray almost incessantly for the church, for people. And to me, it's still, at least to me, there's an impression made that like none of this came out to the entire church until then.
Mm,
Like I felt like in my experience, it was like, oh, she's gone. And within like a month, this scandal popped up in my head, or in my
mm,
head, that was the experience. Very different, of course, for you because you knew months ahead of me. But for me, it was like,
mm-hmm.
oh, like maybe this was all like kept under the lid. And then after she was gone, like God just decided to lift the lid and let all the pressure kind of escape and let the information out.
Mm.
But that was how I remembered it.
Yeah,
What
no,
was
I
it like
think
for you around that time?
yeah, for me, yeah, it was different because I mean, even before the public announcement was made to the church, my friends and I we brought it up to um our pastor, our area pastor before, and then I dialogued with them multiple times on that too. So for me, yeah, I think the timeline you said is right. Is she passed away and then the church made it public, and then I think it really started to unravel from there.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, it's yeah, again, like I already knew it. I was already in dialogue with the past, like one of the pastors. So And by the time it was announced to the church, I thought it was too late. I thought the damage is already done, and maybe we can still like salvage, but for the most part, I really
Hmm.
thought it already came out too late. Yeah.
Yeah, so what I remember, and feel free to step in if you remember differently, was that the announcement was basically that Min Chung had been caught in this scandal. Um, he had touched a woman inappropriately 20 years ago from that time, so like 25 years ago now, and he had apparently never told anybody. And that was essentially the whole gist of it. And not his wife, not the pastors, not elders, not the we were under the PCA, I think technically, so like not even like the PCA Presbytery was aware. So the the action that they essentially said they would take is at that time he was in a sabbatical. I think, and he or they were forcing him into a sabbatical. Either way, they're saying he's not going to be preaching or teaching for a year, and we'll review in a year's time. We take this very seriously. So for me, I'm gonna be honest, okay, and apologize to anybody who feels offended or hurt by this, but like for me, that was enough because I didn't know anything. What the church had put in front of me was like, we had a scandal, we're going public with it, we take it seriously. Here's the disciplinary action we're taking, and I'm like, okay, that's good enough for me as junior year college student. And that was kind of how I walked away from the whole thing. But it sounds like for you, it was like, dang, this is too late, too little. And I think there was a division, right, for people based off of how long they had been there and how deeply they were intertwining their lives with CFC and how much they believed in it and all of that. So,
Yeah. I think when it came out with like they announced all of that, for me it was different because I thought it was more like damage control, right?
yeah.
Not something they were being initiative about, but it was more like them being reactive to what has already happened.
Hmm.
It was pretty disappointing to see that. Yeah. Like,
Hmm.
again, I know, and yeah, like you said, there was a big division on people how received all of that too. There were people who were like, "Oh, okay, like, I think this is enough." I was definitely in the camp of like, that's not enough. I think
Yeah.
they're just trying to do damage control and they're trying to minimize what's been happening for the last few months.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's why this is tricky, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Because um, even between you and me, right? Like you're saying like, oh, I thought that was enough, but then like I'm here saying like, oh, I thought it was too late. It's like damage control,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
you
I
know, it's
mean, I think it's good, honestly, because there were probably people listening who felt one of these two ways or something else completely different. And I
right.
think the point is like, hey, look, we're friends. We love each other. We care about each other. And because our relationship with this church was different, the way we perceived the transpired events were different. Like what you
Hmm.
said earlier was, I think, correct. Like everybody's perception of the events was different.
Yeah.
Um,
But that's what made it so sad because that's what caused so much divisions too, right? Like
yeah.
for some people who decide to, like you said, like, yeah, there were people who actually even left the church or like stepped out of their leadership position before the announcement was made. And then they got judged a lot for that too.
Yeah. I
And then
remember that too.
even after the announcement was made, yeah, for people who didn't, like, who, for people like me who felt like it was damage control and then they weren't, like, it wasn't quote unquote enough. Like, we were labeled as people who are like, oh, how can you be like so unforgiving? Like, I think you're making this to be a bigger deal than it is.
Mm,
Um, and then from the other end too, like we would also like people who thought closer to me would also say stuff about people who thought it was enough. Like we think like, oh, like you're so maybe like you're so ignorant or like you just don't know what you don't know or like how can you let such injustice happen in a church and still be
yeah.
okay with that? Like this isn't about like forgiveness. Like this is about like moral reasoning. Like
Hmm.
so it got nasty. It got
Yeah.
nasty
Yeah.
amongst the church members too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I, it sounds like there's just a lot of internal strife, especially in that like closer network of people who found out earlier, um, that I don't want to diminish at all. What
Right.
was the like, because the saga doesn't really end there. It kind of, to me at least, okay, again, I'm just the pleb. So I'm just kind of citing my experience. It kind of felt like life just moved on for me for like another half year,
Mm.
maybe more. And then it came about time for that like 1 year later review. And again, my recollection of this could be wrong, but what I remember happening was essentially they said towards the beginning of 2021, a year later, a little under a year later, hey, the year is almost up. We've decided that Mincheng will be returning at full capacity at the beginning of the next school year. And I remember there were things that were promised during that process. I can't remember what they exactly were, but I do know that even for me back then, the thought was like, oh, they didn't ask us anything. They just told us that that's what's going to happen. And because I was like a co-leader, right? I wasn't deeply involved in the church in that regard. Um, I think I was just, that was the first moment where truly the cracks began to show, on CFC as an entire thing. Like, it's kind of weird. I don't have time to share about it, but because of some experience I had had years before, I had already kind of realized, oh, like the pastors are fallible. Oh, like people are fallible. Oh, like
Mm-hmm.
leadership isn't perfect. But I
Right.
kind of had given and extended that grace to them in the sense of like, oh, like no one's perfect. People make mistakes. So when the whole scandal with Min came out, I was like, oh, like people make mistakes. It's not that I think what he did was good, but like, you know, there's repentance and there's a change of heart. But then when this came around, I think that was the first moment where I was like, oh, I don't know anything that he or the church has done to show that they're changing. And it kind of feels like they are just doing the exact things that they were doing a year ago. And now they're just saying, oh, yeah, we're just going to put them back in. So that's my perspective,
Mm.
from more of like 1,000 mile away. Well, I was still obviously in the church and I was attending
Mm-hmm.
and serving and all those things, but you were too. Like you were still in the church.
Mm-hmm.
And what was that like for you?
Yeah, that was such an interesting year because that's also when it's my memory, right? Isn't that when COVID also hit us too?
COVID hit us during that year. Yeah. So the
Yeah,
announcement for Min came out and then COVID happened a month later. And then we were all
right.
packed up for the year. And then senior
Exactly.
year happened.
Yeah. Right. So COVID happened. So people were just, I think there was like a pause. Like, oh man, it's so hard to remember all the details actually, but
Yeah.
right,
It did
COVID
feel
ha
like life just froze in that like
yeah,
8 month period, maybe.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, for you, like you said, that was kind of like your breaking point. That was kind of a point where you start to like really question and feel like, oh, this church isn't changing.
I would love to say it was because I think that is probably the more higher ground position to take. But
Mm,
honestly, for me, it was almost like the first crack in the glass.
crack in the glass, right?
It
That's
wasn't
present.
like the whole thing broke right then and there.
Right.
And in some ways, I think like my mindset was like, oh, they messed up, but everybody messes up. And here it was like, oh, they don't seem to be. I think because there's such a culture of like commitment and staying the path and not letting little bumps along the road deter you, it felt like these were just bumps and that we
Mm-hmm.
could work through them. Like I was still in that, like, oh, okay, sure. And I think part of
Mm-hmm.
it was like at that point, I had signed my offer for a new job. I knew I was going to
Mm-hmm.
be out. So
Right.
I had a bit of like dissociation toward like what the future of
Yeah.
the church was anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like I
Mm-hmm.
was in one foot, out the other foot.
Right.
So it's just kind of like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder how that will go.
Yeah. I th I mean, yeah, so people hit the breaking point at different point. Um, yeah, for me, I think I just had too many cracks just from the beginning.
Yeah.
Um, and then COVID came, and I think that was kind of like my waiting period to see like where the church would go, like what is the direction of this church? Like, are they just gonna brush this off as if it's something in the past and we're just gonna move on? Or is this something that we are really gonna repent as a church and try to rebuild from scratch? Um, So I really tried to give the church the benefit of the doubt. And by that point, one of my closest friend left the church. And yeah, I was I was trying to hold on to it. I really thought it was still possible for this church to like turn around. Or at
Yeah.
least if for me to see the worth in staying and continue to like believe in the church and the leadership. But I kept waiting and I kept waiting and just felt like nothing was changing. And if anything, it just felt like the message they're sending was closer to the line of let's move on. Like it was in the past. It really hurt us. Like we get it. Like we get what you hurt. But I think it's time we move on. Let's try to like rebuild our church now. And I couldn't. I realized I couldn't. Right? Like for
Hmm.
me, it's I don't know what we're rebuilding on when there's so much pain and grievance and hurt. Oh, and then there was a time like Letters from Rahab also came out and
Yeah. We're getting there. We're getting there. So,
Letters LFR,
for,
right? Letters from
yeah,
Rahab.
yeah,
Like it was
yeah.
brutal, man. It was brutal.
So, when did you find out about Letters from Rahab? I'm
Dang,
curious.
dude, that's oh my gosh.
Again, you don't need to give a month. I'm not gonna like cross examine you on it, but like,
Pretty
was
early on. Wait, that
yeah,
account picked up so fast because
yeah,
people in CFC were like, "Oh my gosh," and the people were just like, because people were scared that they also might be in the story, right? Like,
hmm,
because all these different stories started to come out, and some were legit, but some were also, I mean,
I remember.
no,
Yeah,
every hurt is real. Let me be very upfront. Every hurt is real, and every pain that they experience in church ought to be recognized. But the things that they were shared and the way that platform was used to shame people and hurt people, oh man, it's hard to say. Like, I can't I can't get myself to say everything that came out from Letters from Rahab was good. That's a thing, right? Like,
yeah,
I think it's great that they gave voice to people who felt powerless,
yeah.
and I think it's great that all these like hidden sins came to light. I think, yeah, I think there was good, a lot of good that came out from that.
Yeah.
But I think so much, again, like shame and like hostility came out of that too. And
Yeah.
man, yeah, it was quite nasty actually,
It
the things people were commenting on and saying. Yeah.
it was pretty rough. I remember I actually found out on my graduation day.
Oh my
Of
gosh.
all the days, it was like right before the actual graduation, maybe like a week. Because I don't think it was actually graduation, but I was getting grad photos taken with people. I remember that. And then I found out
Oh.
about the account.
Uh-huh.
And then I looked at it, and then I remember just scrolling through it for like a week or two there. And I think the general view I had was like, yes, some of the scandals that came out, it was really important that they came out.
Uh-huh.
Yes, some of the voices that were powerless, feeling empowered to come out with their stories, oh man, like God did so much for those people to
Yeah.
even just begin their journey of healing through this. But I also saw, like you did, and I think it is the case when there's a social media craze, like some of the stories were just like, hey, like someone pointed at me and called and said like you're the mafia and I'm hurt by that. Like, not to like shame that person specifically. If you're happening to listen to this, I'm not trying to shame you back. But I do think it was like the degree to which these stories were going, because it wasn't filtered necessarily that heavily. It did feel like the severity was just to like at times pile on to pile on. Just like I might get canceled for this, who knows? But I think what I would say is there was real grief against real pain that
Mm-hmm.
needed to occur. And I think people saw it as an opportunity to also list out their grievances against other people
Mm-hmm.
and list out their complaints. And I don't think that's Christ-like. And I don't think that embodies a spirit of Christ's love towards one another.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
It
Yeah,
was a tough time for sure.
it
What
was
were
a
you gonna
tough
say?
time. No, I mean, like when it comes to like church conflict, um, that is not how we seek reconciliation, right? That is not how we seek forgiveness, and that's not how we seek restoration. Again, like we talked about the way the platform was used. I think, I mean, I like to believe like it started with a good intention,
Yeah.
and again, like how can we hold people accountable and also empower the victims, which is
Mhm.
great. But then yeah, just also turned into a place where people just could gossip. Because with
Yeah.
each post, people comment on it too. And even though there weren't any names on the post, in the comment section, people would be like, oh, I know who this mofo is. And then they were like, start posting their names and start cursing that person out. And I don't see how that's loving, to be honest. Right? I don't know
Yeah.
how that's us bringing God's justice into this broken world. Like we're just playing right along to
Yeah.
continue to create and foster
Yeah.
injustice and hatred towards each other.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
I
it's
I remember like because it was right before graduation, my last one of my last Sunday services was me showing up to church. I think it was like during that summer period because we were gonna like I remember a few guys we were gonna live together in the apartment that we had that senior year, and then we were gonna go home and pack up and then move to Seattle. So I went to a summer service, and that summer service, the pastors came out because letters from Rahab had like exploded, and they came up and they just said, "We are deeply sorry." And they had like this, it was like this little like, it felt like it was reading from a script, and then they just like walked off, and I was like, dang, it's over. Like that was the feeling I had. Like it was actually over. Like because it was summer, students were going home anyway. But I swear, like you were saying, like it dropped to like 300, but I think it was like because of the summer, it was like under 100 in those summer services. And we had gone from like 1,200 people to that. And it was just crazy to me that that was what had
mhm.
happened. So,
Yeah, and it was really hard going back to service when we first opened up because that's when Letters from Rahab was really hot. Like everybody was reading. And when I went to CUCC, wow, I'm like remembering this now. Like when I went to CUCC for like the first opening service since COVID, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to a church where we have all these posts like shaming the leaders of our church or like what's wrong
mhm,
with their church. Like, is it really okay for me to go to this church? I felt that. Yeah, I did.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did, so you were seeing the bad in the church. You were seeing the bad through the social media,
Hmm.
but you were still there.
I was still there. Yeah.
I guess like to ask the obvious question, and I'm close enough with you that you know that I'm not
Yeah.
judging you for it. Literally, why? Why were you still there?
Man, as crazy as it sounds, it's because I still believe in the church, the mission the church stood for. I think it's because my faith in the leadership pretty much died. That's why I ended up leaving. But man, the church, I mean, I think I was in CFC for about 10 years. But man, like, I've seen incredible things in those 10 years I was at that church. I've seen God do wonders. I've seen God change people's hearts. And it was a place where I was transformed and truly like renewed, um, where I experienced the goodness of His word, experienced the power of His prayer. And I think I was clinging on to that, like that glorious past almost. Like, oh, I know what CFC can be. Like, I think it's still too, I just can't like let this go yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I think just more and more like looked around, is it wasn't the church. It was no longer a church that I thought it once was. But I really wanted to. I love that church. I really did, and yeah, I think I just kept clinging on to that church as if it was still possible for me to love and serve in that church because I believed in it. Yeah.
Yeah. I I mean there were ways that we grew in our faith that were just not possible um without that specific environment, for
Yeah.
better or for worse.
Right. Right.
Um and I think you hit it on the nail on the head. Like, it's hard to look back on the place that you owe like your spiritual formation,
Mm-hmm.
your growth from not just like a believer, but to like a follower and the disciple of
Mm-hmm.
Christ, and say like, oh, this is trash and I'm gonna throw it out. But you did ultimately leave. And
Mm-hmm.
what was that like, kind of like realizing, oh, like I thought I would be here for the rest of my life with my
Mm-hmm.
friends. I thought that this leadership was gonna be one I would back for the rest of my life. And now I'm gone and I'm off somewhere else. And you were in seminary at this time too.
Mm-hmm.
So like all of that just kind of, what was that processing and experience like?
Yeah.
Even mourning and grieving.
Right. I think it ultimately came down to, can I trust the leader of this church? Like, can I really see the leaders as my shepherd who will lead me towards Christ? And I had to really wrestle with that. I did. Because at that point, like my closest friends decided to leave. A lot of people I was close with left too. And like some like people I respected also left. Even my own sister left. There weren't that many people left, but I was one of like the last people like in my like the community of people I knew who was still like considering staying. Because again, it came down to like if I can really trust a leader, then I think I can stay here and like serve in this church because again, like I love this church. I love this body of brothers and sisters. Then yeah, I started to just reflect on like how this all started and like how we even got here. That made me think, oh, I just don't think I can trust the leader uh, not to disappoint me. That I kind of thought like that. Like I think if I
Mm-hmm.
continue to stay, I think this already broken trust will continue to break more. Um, I don't think change is coming. Like this is it. I think there were many opportunities for the church to change its course and to turn around, but
Mm-hmm.
it didn't. And I think for me, I hit a point where I just don't think it was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was really important that instead of moving on, that we really are gonna sit through this and recognize again the grievance, the pain, the hurt that has been caused and been experienced, and how we first need to like heal from this together. Um, but even to the very end, I think the message I was hearing from the leadership was that we're gonna forget the past. It's a new start. It's a new church. Let's get excited for what's ahead of us. I think that's what it was. Like they really presented it in a way of like, it's an exciting time for us. Let's think of it as a new beginning. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna be a new church that's transformed. And I'm thinking here, like, what's exciting about what happened? So many people left our church. Like our community is in shambles. Like what's exciting about this new church that you're talking about? Like, I think that's what was like now that I'm like remember, I think that's what the breaking point was.
Yeah.
Like this whole idea of fresh start just completely undermines all the pain that we experienced for the past like year or two.
Yeah.
And to me it's I can't get myself to trust a leader who like that was their conclusion of
Mm-hmm.
all that has happened, and I just couldn't anymore. So yeah,
Yeah. It's like cognitive dissonance. You couldn't
yeah,
like convince yourself that that was what you
Y-
believed in.
yeah, exactly. Like I don't feel excited. I just feel
Mm.
sad. Like I can't get myself to be excited. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, as you left, like, were you feeling like at peace with it? Was it anger? What were the emotions you were feeling as you just kind of, did you even tell people? Like, did you just kind of quietly one day hang it up? Or, I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, first
how
I
did it
had
end?
to, I mean, because I was stepping down from like welcoming teams, so I did specifically let the welcoming, like other welcoming leaders and the team know, like, hey, like I think this is it for me. I just don't think I have what it takes to just keep staying and serving in this church. I'm really sorry to let you down. Um, and then I let the pastor who's still there, I just let him know, like, hey, like I think the direction you're going is not something that I can join, unfortunately. Like I do wish you all the best, and I do really hope God continues to like work through you to bless his church. But I just don't think I can do that with you. So, and yeah, he was, I mean, it's cool about it. He's like, yeah, like God bless you. I think he said something on the line of like, God bless you, brother. Like all the best on your way too, or something like that. I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
kind of like part my ways from there.
Yeah.
But it was really painful, man. For actually, I mean, I stopped now, but for a long time, every day I went on cfchome.org.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't just for a couple of weeks. It was for quite a long time. Every day I would actually go to the home page and just kind of think about, wow, I went to this church for like 10 plus years and now I'm not part of it anymore. Like, it was so sad. It was so sad. And I felt so lost because I also think I put all my eggs into that one basket called CFC.
Mm-hmm.
Because I even chose my seminary school because it had a hybrid program that allowed me to stay in Champaign because I still wanted to continue to serve in the church. And I know that, and I talked to one of the area pastors too back then when I said, hey, like after seminary school, I would love to become a staff here one day. Like I really love this church and I'm invested in this church and I would love to join um, the leadership team after I graduate from seminary. Like I really was all in on that church.
Yeah.
So yeah, I felt very lost and just where do I go from here, God? That's kind of
Yeah.
how I felt when I initially left the church.
And where did God take you from there?
Yeah, dude, it was wild ride, man. I mean, after that, I went to a different local church in Champaign for about a year, and it was weird transitioning from like serving at a church, like what, like 40 hours, right? Like a full-time job, to just going to a Sunday service for like an hour and a half per week. Yeah, but I also like needed that too. I think like
Mm-hmm.
it was during that time where I had to think about what does it mean to see myself as a Christian who's loved by God when all I'm doing is going to Sunday service for an hour and a half a week. Um, do I really believe that I'm loved the same way from God as when I was a leader serving in the church for hours, do I still have
Yeah.
the same worth and value to God? I think it
Yeah.
was a lot of like that sort of reflection for that year.
Yeah.
And then also the opportunity came for, yeah, me to move to New York. I never once thought I end up here. It's not like I was in Champaign thinking, I would love to try New York one day. I never once thought that.
Yeah.
But an opportunity came for me to get connected with the senior pastor here at Joy. And he's also a U of L alumni who went to CFC too. So a lot of connections there. And then now I'm here. And I would like to, and I really do want to say, like, the minister that I am today is because of the ways I grew as a Christian in my time in CFC. I can attest to that for sure. Like, I would not be the leader I am today if it wasn't for my time in CFC. Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah. I mean, how do you feel like, because let's, I think there's a funny story I want to ask you about, which is
Yeah.
your bachelor party. Um, because I think people who hear all of this would be shocked at what you did for your bachelor party. So, like, first of all, what did you do? And second of all, why the heck did you pick that to be your bachelor party?
Yeah. My bachelor party, which you
This
joined,
was last
Stephen.
year, by the way. Sorry, like four years ago after leaving CFC, right?
When was the bachelor party? Oh my gosh. It was, it was last year, but yeah, we went to Champagne. Went to Champagne and we I specifically asked to visit like the CFC locations that we use. We went to Brookings Gymnasium. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Dude, I went to the building every Sunday for like 10 years.
That was our Sunday
It's
service.
it's home sweet home for me. So
Yep.
went to Brookings Gymnasium. I went to all these like school halls such as Lincoln Hall and the Noise Lab, the Noise Room One, like Noise 100, right? Oh my gosh.
So okay, hopefully we don't get arrested for saying this, but like
Oh
the
shit.
door was unlocked and we went in and we sat like a group of grown men who were years graduated in that room where we used to meet Saturdays 8 to 12:30 for years for servants meetings.
Yeah. The
We
main
didn't get
location was CUCC. We used Noise like once in a while, but we
yeah,
couldn't get
yeah.
into CUCC, obviously. That'd be that'd be bad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, like Steven said, the doors were open. People were using the building, so in no way were we trespassing. I'll be very clear on that.
Yeah. We
But
yeah.
yeah, those are very meaningful places. I mean, my entire 20s is defined pretty much by that church. So I think that's what I really wanted to do for my bachelor trip to visit all these buildings that our church used. And then we also visited CFC because they have a building now. And
They didn't when we were there. Yeah.
right, they didn't when we were there. Um, it was just like a journey down the memory lane. That's what the whole trip was for me. Yeah.
And I think people would look at that and be like, dude, like, you're just re traumatizing yourself. Why would you do that? And I mean, there were like half joke, half not jokes
Yeah,
during the
yeah, yeah.
time there where it's oh, we're re traumatizing ourselves. But like, I mean, all the jokes and all that aside, like, what did that mean for you to kind of revisit for the campus and look at where you spent your 20s? And I mean, we're completely skipping 4 years of just you kind of ending up in New York, spending the time there and journeying. Like, what was your mindset going into it, and what did you kind of get out of that?
Yeah. It's easy to look back and have such a negative view of the church. I think oftentimes too, when I talk about CFC with other people, it's often in a negative light, just being honest. And I think there's a reason for that too. I think so many people, including myself, were so hurt through that church. But at the same time, I can't deny the fact that the Spirit worked through that church. And it was a time, again, for me to just grow so much closer to God and grow a heart to love people around me and to serve those around me. To see myself as a living sacrifice and to surrender my life to my Lord and my Savior, Jesus Christ. Like that church really taught me that. And it was also a place where I met some of my closest friends, including yourself. Even like as we're having this podcast, there are so many things I'm thankful to the church for. So that's why I wanted to visit that place. Just to remember not just the bad things, but also the good things that came out of that church. And to give thanks to God for the ways He led me and guided me in my 20s using that church. Yeah, I mean, really like praise God for allowing me to be part of that church and to experience that church in my 20s, for sure.
Yeah, I think similarly, like, even when I meet people and I tell them, especially pastors, and especially Korean American pastors, and I tell them, oh, I went to CFC, there's like oh.
Yeah, no,
And
I hear like, oh, I'm so sorry, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, that's the initial reaction, and for a lot of good reasons. Like, I don't want them to be like, oh, that must have been so fun. Like, that would be crazy to say. But, you know, we might not ever see that again in our lifetime.
Right.
Like, for better or for worse,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're going back.
Yeah.
Whatever we're headed to is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Even CFC now, like, obviously I know you were checking the website for a bit. I know they like grew back to like 300 or 400 and they've been hovering around that.
Mm-hmm.
Last I heard, they might be bigger now, but regardless, like, there was something special about what God was doing during that time.
Mm-hmm.
I was very fortunate. And I say that with all of the weight of the things that you talked about. I do still believe I was fortunate to be able to experience the Spirit, the touch and the love of God, and the community and the friends like you and others who I still keep in touch with today. And at the same time, like, I do not want to diminish anybody's journey of pain and struggle and what they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people now who even still, it just feels like life has never been the same for them since then.
Right, right.
And I mean, I guess I have a couple thoughts or a couple questions as we come closer to a close here.
Mm-hmm.
First, like, do you have any words for people who, you know, just are still reeling, are still recovering, are still healing?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think you really did brush past like that recovery process a little bit.
I did.
For yourself, like, what was that like for you? And what do you think God shared with you that you could share with them?
Yeah, that is a question that I even often ask myself, like, how was I able to bounce back, to be honest? When I've seen some of the people closest to me still struggle with the hurt that they experienced. And I mean, for me, I think that is God's grace for me. Like, not that I'm diminishing my hurt. And it's still there too. I can clearly see that the way I view church, the way I think about Christianity, the way I even think about spiritual formation, it's still shaped and influenced by my hurt from that church. And I think
Yeah.
that's just never gonna go away, right? I will never be the person who was not hurt from CFC ever again. I'll
Hmm.
always be somebody who carried the hurt and the trauma from what had happened. And I'm somebody who's healing from that. But at the same time, I was fortunate enough, and it really is God's grace, that I came to accept that church is indeed for broken people, and it is a place where people will hurt people. And yeah, this is, I do want to be very sensitive to those who are like struggling with that area.
Hmm.
It's not as if we go to church because we want to be hurt by people. Like, that's absolutely not the case. But at the same time, people who gather at the church are because we say that we need an external savior to save us from our internal brokenness. Like, we're coming to church because we admit that. Like, we're
Yeah.
not coming, like, we're not at church because we're morally a higher being. We're not at church because we live out the commandments of God better than those who don't know God. That's not true. We come to church because we know that it is only through Christ we can be righteous. And as those who are saved by grace, we want to worship God together. We want to thank God together. And we want to bestow the grace that God has given us to those around us. So, I mean, I'm not saying go to a church expecting that your leaders will fail you and that you'll get traumatized by church scandal. That's not what I'm saying. But live with the reality that everyone in the church, including your leaders, are fallible people, broken people, um, who will not be our savior. Right? Even the
Yeah.
community you love so much will fail you. Even the leaders you trust so much will fail you.
Yeah.
Only God won't fail you. Like, only His truth will never lie to you. And only His love will, again, be the only thing that doesn't fail you. So for people who are still struggling, I think so much of that hurt comes from feeling betrayed by the leaders they trusted a lot. I think that's kind of the camp that they're in, and the failure of the leader extends to failure of Christianity for them. And I do think it is a tragedy that like spiritual leaders they admired, like respected and looked up to, failed them on a moral level that made the people not able to uh, made it more difficult for people to like seek God. I think that is
Hmm.
a tragedy. I think that is a tragedy. But to those people specifically, I just want to say, God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He is the same God whom you trusted before the hurt, as He is the same God today, um, after you've been hurt. He
Yeah.
is the only being who is immutable, who does not change. He's the only being that is constant and who can be trusted. Like, healing will never come um, by seeking a better leader, a better community, a more trustworthy leader, or people who comes off as just morally as good as it can be. Like, the only true healing will come when you just keep going back to God, keep going back to Jesus, and know that He is truly the only being you can rely on. I think that's how I processed what happened. And I really do believe like that's where true healing can be found. Yeah.
Amen. Well said. I think at the end of the day, Min was seen as a couple steps below Christ.
Yeah.
And no human should ever be that high up in anyone's eyes. And everybody else, if he's all the way up there, is just kind of seen on the stairway to heaven. And yeah, I think the hurt is real. And so is our God.
Mm.
And the pain and the disappointment was real. And I know that this might all sound very offhanded from me since I wasn't the one who was as close as Daniel was, but if you ever reach out to me and want to connect, I mean, I'll tell you all about it. I've been hurt by CFC in other ways before all this stuff happened. And I will tell you, like, people are fallible, God is not. Everything that Daniel said, I fully agree with. Like, we were a people in CFC that saw kind of like the Exodus generation, miracles performed by Moses. And yet, it's as if Moses fails, we must all. But our great high priest, Jesus, never failed, never will, and his scars aren't fading either.
Mm-hmm.
He carries them with him into eternity, and he holds us with them. And I hope that's comforting. I hope that's not just preaching that re-triggers all of your memories. And I really do hope that God will guide you on your journey. And if not, we're here. And those who are around us are not expecting anybody to like just buckle up and move on. And God is ultimately so deeply patient with each and every one of us in our journey.